Silence had a weight in the grand chamber of Station Horizon. 47 species sat in their designated sections, their translators humming softly, their attention fixed on the central platform where decisions shaped the fate of worlds. That today's session was routine. Planetary status reviews happened every cycle. Most species barely paid attention. Worlds lived. Worlds died. The galaxy moved on. Counselor Imrith of the Dravini stepped forward. His gray skin reflected the chamber's cold lighting. His 4 eyes scanned the data tablet in his long fingers. He was a scientist by training, a politician by necessity. He believed in facts above all things. Classification review for Sol 3, he announced. Native designation, Earth. A few delegates shifted in their seats. Earth, the human homeworld. A minor planet from a minor system. The humans had achieved basic spaceflight perhaps 50 years ago. They had scattered a few thousand of their kind across trading posts and colonies. They contributed nothing significant to galactic science or culture. Imrith continued reading. Long-range probe data collected 8 cycles ago shows the following conditions. Solar flare activity increased by 340%. Planetary magnetic field degradation at critical levels. Ocean acidification reaching terminal thresholds. Surface temperature variance exceeding survivable parameters. He paused. The chamber remained quiet. Probe contact was lost following final transmission. Based on available evidence, this council must conclude that Sol 3 has experienced complete biosphere collapse. Imrith looked up from his tablet. I moved to reclassify Earth from developing civilization to extinct biosphere. The vote took less than a minute. 47 species. 47 agreements. Unanimous. The motion carries, Imrith declared. Earth is hereby declared a dead world. Let the records reflect this decision. In the observation gallery above the main floor, a human sat alone. His name was Daniel Reyes. He was 32 years old. He worked as a maintenance engineer on the station's atmospheric systems. He fixed air filters and recycling units. He unclogged vents. He was nobody important. He had been born on Earth, a small town in Argentina. He remembered the smell of his grandmother's kitchen, the sound of wind through the grass, the color of the sky at sunset. He had left Earth at 19 on a colony transport. A better opportunity, they said. A chance to see the stars. He had planned to return someday. Now there was nothing to return to. Daniel watched the assembly members begin gathering their materials. The session was ending. Another dead world filed away in the archives. Another species reduced to scattered survivors and fading memories that he thought about his grandmother. She had survived 3 economic collapses, 2 political upheavals, and a flood that destroyed half their town. Each time, she rebuilt. Each time, she refused to quit. You don't lie down and die, she used to say. Not while you can still stand. Daniel raised his hand. The movement was small. His arm extended upward. His palm faced the ceiling. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. But the effect was immediate. Counselor Imrith stopped mid-step. Other delegates turned. Translators buzzed with confusion. No one raised their hand after a planetary death declaration. There was no protocol for it. No precedent. No reason. Human, Imrith said slowly. What are you doing? Daniel stood. His legs felt weak, but he kept them steady. His voice came out calm, surprising even himself. May I speak? The chamber erupted in whispers. A Mority delegate laughed. A pellucid representative tilted its crystalline head in what might have been curiosity. Several species simply stared, unsure what to make of this strange little creature from a dead world. Imrith considered the request. Technically, observation gallery members had no speaking rights. But technically, no one had ever asked before. This is irregular, he said. Yes, Daniel agreed. You have no authority here. I know. Your planet has been declared dead. The decision is final. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand, but I would still like to speak, if you will allow it. Imrith studied the human. Small, fragile, soft skin and dull teeth. No claws, no venom, no natural armor. The Dravini scientist had read reports about Earth. A violent world. Extreme temperatures. Predators and parasites and 1,000 ways to die. How this species had survived long enough to reach space remained a mystery. Yet here stood one of them. Alone in a gallery full of superior beings. Asking to speak against a unanimous decision. Imrith found himself curious. Very well, he said. Approach the platform. Daniel walked down the steps from the gallery. Every eye in the chamber followed him. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He reached the central platform and stood where moments ago his world had been declared dead. He looked out at the assembly. 47 species. Thousands of years of combined civilization. Technology that could reshape stars and bend space itself. And they had given up on Earth without a second thought. Daniel took a breath. "Thank you for allowing me to speak," he said. "I promise not to waste your time." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "You have declared my planet dead. You may be right. The data seems clear. But I would like to ask the assembly one question before we close this matter forever." Imrith frowned. "What question?" Daniel's eyes swept across the chamber. When he spoke again, his voice carried a quiet strength that made several delegates lean forward. "Did anyone check if we survived?" The question hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Did anyone check if we survived? Counselor Imrith felt his four eyes narrow. The human's words were not angry. They were not desperate. They carried the weight of genuine curiosity, as if Daniel Reyes truly wanted to know the answer rather than make an accusation. "The probe data is conclusive," Imrith said carefully. "Surface conditions are incompatible with life." "Surface conditions," Daniel repeated. "Yes, I saw the readings. Storms, fires, radiation. The surface is dead. But Earth is more than its surface." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A freehold trader in the merchant section leaned forward with sudden interest. Imrith gestured, and a holographic display materialized above the platform. Earth rotated slowly in the blue light. Brown continents, gray oceans, swirling clouds of ash and debris. It looked like a corpse. Daniel studied the image. His expression did not change. He had prepared himself for this moment since he first heard about the session. He would not cry. He would not beg. His grandmother had taught him better than that. "May I examine the detailed readings?" he asked. Imrith hesitated. Sharing classified probe data with a non-member was unusual. But the assembly was watching now, and refusing would seem petty. He expanded the display, showing temperature gradients, atmospheric composition, radiation levels. Daniel walked around the hologram, studying each section. The delegates watched in confused silence. What was this human looking for? The evidence was overwhelming. Nothing could survive those conditions. Then Daniel stopped. He pointed at a region in the southern hemisphere. "There," he said. "What is that?" Imrith magnified the area. The readings showed a pocket of anomalous data. Stable temperatures, regulated atmospheric traces, heat signatures that should not exist on a dying world. "Sensor error," Imrith said dismissively. The probe was failing by that point. Or, Daniel said quietly, it was recording something real. The freehold trader stood up. His name was Basic, and he had spent 30 years hauling cargo between 100 worlds. He had worked with humans before. "Let the man speak," Basic called out. "I want to hear this." Imrith shot the trader an irritated look, but nodded for Daniel to continue. Daniel turned to address the full assembly. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. "Earth has always tried to kill us," he began. "From the very beginning. Ice ages, volcanic winters, plagues that killed half our population. We survived because we learned to adapt. We learned to dig." He paused, letting the translators catch up. 300 years ago, we built our first deep shelters. Not for war, but for survival. Underground cities designed to sustain life when the surface became hostile. Air recycling, water purification, underground farms using artificial light. A pellucid delegate made a sound like chiming glass. "You are suggesting your species anticipated planetary collapse?" "No," Daniel admitted. "We anticipated disaster. We did not know what form it would take. But we knew something would come eventually. So we prepared." He pointed again at the anomalous readings. Bunkers, survival vaults, self-sustaining habitats buried deep beneath the ground. That heat signature is not a sensor error. That is thousands of people living below the surface, waiting for rescue that never came. The chamber fell silent. Imrith studied the data with fresh eyes. The readings were consistent with large-scale underground activity. Power generation, climate control, signs of organized civilization hidden beneath the devastation. "This is speculation," he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "It is hope," Daniel replied, "and I am asking this assembly to let me prove it." A Mority delegate stood. Her carapace clicked as she moved. "Even if survivors exist, What would you have us do? Earth is beyond recovery. The surface is uninhabitable. Any rescue operation would require resources this assembly cannot justify. Daniel nodded. I understand. I am not asking for resources. I am asking for permission. Permission to go back, to find out if anyone is still alive, to bring them home. The Morty made a harsh sound. Home to where? You have no homeworld anymore. You are refugees. Daniel met her eyes without flinching. My people have been refugees before. We survived. We always survive. Basik the traitor laughed. It was a deep, rolling sound that echoed through the chamber. He's right, you know. I've seen humans work in conditions that would kill a Dravini in hours. They just keep going. Stubborn as gravity. Imrith raised a hand for silence. The debate was spiraling beyond his control. He needed to restore order. The Assembly cannot fund a rescue expedition based on anomalous sensor readings and human stubbornness, he declared. However, we will not prevent one either. If you can secure transportation and crew by the end of this session, you may investigate your homeworld. Daniel bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Counselor. Do not thank me. The session ends in 3 standard days. You have no ship, no crew, and no resources. This is not permission. This is bureaucratic politeness. Daniel smiled. It was small and tired, but genuine. 3 days is enough, he said. My grandmother rebuilt our home twice with less time than that. He turned and walked back toward the observation gallery. The assembly watched him go, unsure what they had just witnessed, that a maintenance worker from a dead planet had challenged their verdict. And somehow, against all logic, he had won the first battle. Now he had 72 hours to win the war. The lower decks of Station Horizon smelled like engine grease and recycled air. This was where the workers lived. Dock workers, freight haulers, refugees from a dozen forgotten conflicts. No politics here. No speeches. Just beings trying to survive another day. Daniel Reyes walked through the crowded corridors with purpose. He had 68 hours left. No time for rest. No time for doubt. That he started in the cargo bays, talking to anyone who would listen. His story was simple. Earth might still have survivors. He needed a ship and crew to find out. He had nothing to offer except his word and his willingness to work. Most beings ignored him. A human from a dead world was not worth their time. Others laughed. A few cursed him for wasting their break, but some listened. In a repair shop near Dock 7, Daniel found a Morty engineer named Tulloch. She had gray-green chitin and 3 mechanical arms she had built herself. Her homeworld had died 40 years ago when its star collapsed. She understood loss in a way few others could. You believe survivors exist? She asked, her voice clicking through her translator. I believe they might, Daniel said honestly. I cannot prove it, but I have to try. Tulloch studied him for a long moment. Her compound eyes reflected the workshop's dim lights. My people gave up when our star began to fail, she said quietly. We accepted death. Only a few thousand escaped. I have spent my life wondering what would have happened if we had fought harder. She stood and wiped her hands on a cloth. I will go with you. My skills are yours. Daniel thanked her. 1 crew member secured. Perhaps 67 hours remained. Word spread through the lower decks. A human was assembling a rescue mission to a dead world. Most thought he was crazy. But crazy attracted attention, and attention attracted volunteers. Basik the freehold trader found Daniel in a food hall, eating a meal of protein paste and water. The trader dropped into the seat across from him. I have a ship, Basik announced. Daniel looked up. What do you want for it? Nothing. Consider it a loan. Basik grinned, showing rows of flat teeth. The ship is old, held together with patches and prayers. But she flies. She will get you to Earth. Why are you helping me? Basik shrugged his massive shoulders. I have hauled cargo for humans before. Strange species. You work too hard. You talk too much. You form attachments to everything, even machines. He leaned forward. But you never quit. I watched a human repair crew work for 30 hours straight to save a damaged freighter. They did not sleep. They did not eat. They just kept working until the job was done. He tapped the table with 1 thick finger. That kind of stubbornness is rare. I want to see where it leads. 2 volunteers now. A ship secured. Daniel felt hope building in his chest, but he pushed it down. Hope was dangerous. He needed to stay focused. More crew members appeared over the following hours. A pellucid navigator named Crystalline 7 found the mission mathematically interesting. She calculated a 12% chance of finding survivors, which she considered surprisingly high for a supposedly extinct species. The young Dravini, named Soren, joined last. He was Counselor Imritha's own son, though he refused to speak of his father. He said only that he wanted to witness history. Daniel suspected there was more to the story, but he did not press. By the end of the second day, Daniel had a crew of 7. Different species, different reasons, united by curiosity and something harder to define. They gathered in the docking bay where Basik's ship waited. It was called the Wandering Star, and it looked exactly as Basik had described. Old, patched, barely holding together. Daniel loved it immediately. She is not pretty, Basik admitted, but she has heart. She is perfect, Daniel said. The crew spent the remaining hours loading supplies and checking systems. Daniel worked alongside them, refusing to let anyone outpace him. When Tulloch mentioned she had not eaten in 16 hours, Daniel disappeared into the ship's small kitchen. He returned with bowls of hot soup. Not the standard nutrient paste, but actual soup made from real ingredients he had traded his week's wages to obtain. Each bowl was adjusted for the specific dietary needs of its recipient. The crew stared at him. What? Daniel asked. You cannot work on an empty stomach. Crystalline 7 tilted her crystalline head. You are building loyalty through food, she observed. A common bonding ritual among social species. Daniel smiled and handed her a bowl of mineral-enriched broth. I am building a family, he said. By the time the assembly session ended, the Wandering Star was ready to launch. Counselor Imrith sent a formal message noting that Daniel had met the requirements. Permission was granted to investigate Earth. The message ended with a single line. Do not expect to find anything. Daniel read the words and tucked the tablet away. He turned to his crew, gathered on the ship's small bridge. Ready? He asked. Tulloch nodded. Basik laughed. Crystalline 7 calculated their odds again and found them acceptable. Soren simply watched, waiting. Daniel took his seat. Then let's go home. The Wandering Star detached from station horizon and turned toward the distant light of an unremarkable yellow star. Toward a planet everyone believed was dead. Toward the smallest chance that humanity had refused to die. 11 days of travel lay ahead. Daniel did not sleep for the first 3. Stars blurred past the viewport like streaks of frozen light. The Wandering Star pushed through the void, her old engines groaning with effort. 11 days to Earth. 11 days of waiting and wondering. Daniel spent the journey learning his crew. Tulloch worked in the engine room, coaxing extra power from systems that should have failed years ago. She talked about her homeworld sometimes, late in the ship's artificial night. The purple forests, the singing mountains, the way the sky turned gold during eclipse season. All gone now, swallowed by a dying star. Do you regret leaving? Daniel asked one evening. Tulloch's mechanical arms paused their work. Every day, she admitted. But regret does not bring back the dead. Only action matters now. Basik taught Daniel to pilot. The freehold trader had spent his life navigating between worlds, and he shared his knowledge freely. He told stories of strange planets and stranger species, of cargo runs gone wrong and deals gone right, of the time he accidentally started a war by delivering the wrong cheese to a diplomatic dinner. Humans would have laughed, Basik said. That is what I like about your kind. You find humor in disaster. It helps us cope, Daniel replied. It helps you survive. Basik corrected. Crystalline 7 spent her time calculating routes, fuel consumption, probability matrices for various outcomes. She approached everything with mathematical precision. Yet Daniel noticed she often chose to sit with the crew during meals rather than work alone. You are a social creature, Daniel observed one day. I am gathering data on group dynamics, she replied. Her crystalline form flickered with light. It is pleasant. Daniel smiled. We call that friendship. Soren remained distant. The young Dravini watched everything but said little. Daniel caught him staring at the stars sometimes, his 4 eyes unfocused, lost in thoughts he would not share. On the 8th day, Daniel found Soren alone in the cargo hold. Your father thinks I am wasting time, Daniel said, sitting down nearby. He believes Earth is dead. Soren flinched at the mention of his father. Counselor Imrith believes only in data, numbers, facts he can measure. And you? The young Dravini was quiet for a long moment. I believe the galaxy has forgotten how to hope. We catalog extinction events like inventory lists. Species die, and we file reports and move on. He looked at Daniel with something like wonder. You challenged the entire assembly for a chance. A possibility. Most species would have accepted the verdict. Humans are not most species, Daniel said. I am beginning to understand that. On the 10th day, they entered the Sol system. The outer planets drifted past like ghosts. Neptune, Uranus, Saturn with her broken rings. Jupiter, storm still raging across her ancient face. The gas giants had survived the catastrophe that killed Earth's surface. They did not care about the small rocky world closer to the sun. Mars appeared next. Daniel had hoped to see lights on the red planet, signs of the colonies that once struggled to take root there. But Mars was dark. The domed cities lay silent. Whatever disaster struck Earth had claimed her children too. The crew gathered on the bridge as Earth came into view. Daniel had prepared himself. He had studied the probe data. He knew what to expect, but knowing and seeing were different things. Earth was brown. Her oceans had turned gray. Permanent clouds of ash and debris wrapped around her like a funeral shroud. The continents were barely recognizable, scarred by impacts and fires and the slow death of everything green. Tulloch made a soft sound of grief. She had seen this before with her own world. The final stage of planetary death. Daniel, the sixth said gently, I am sorry. Daniel did not respond. He stared at the ruined world that had once been his home. Somewhere down there, his grandmother's house had stood. The kitchen where she taught him to cook. The garden where he played as a child. All gone. But then he noticed something. Crystalline 7, he said quietly. Scan the southern hemisphere. The same coordinates from the probe data. The pellucid navigator complied. Numbers scrolled across her display. Her crystalline form pulsed with sudden light. Thermal signatures detected, she announced. Consistent with large-scale underground habitation. Power generation. Climate control. Life support systems operating at capacity. The crew stared at the readings. They survived, Tulloch whispered. Daniel felt tears building behind his eyes. He forced them back. Not yet. There was still work to do. Can we establish communication? He asked. Attempting contact now, Crystalline 7 replied. Standard frequencies. Broadcasting in all known Earth languages. Static filled the bridge. 1 attempt. 2. 5. 10. Nothing. Daniel closed his eyes. Perhaps the systems were damaged. Perhaps no one was listening. Perhaps he had come all this way for ghosts. Then, on the 14th attempt, a voice crackled through the speakers that IT was tired and cautious, speaking Spanish first before switching to broken Galactic Common. This is Bunker Esperanza. We are 4,217 souls. We have survived 19 years underground. Is anyone there? Please respond. Is anyone listening? Daniel grabbed the communication console. His hands were shaking. His voice was steady. Bunker Esperanza, this is Daniel Reyes of the rescue vessel Wandering Star. Help has arrived. You are not alone anymore. Silence stretched across the void. Then the voice returned, broken by static and tears. We waited so long. We thought everyone forgot us. Daniel smiled through his own tears. Never, he said. We never forgot. The first child emerged from the bunker entrance wearing clothes that had been patched 100 times. She was perhaps 7 years old, born entirely underground, and she had never seen the sky. She looked up at the gray clouds and the weak sunlight filtering through the ash, and she began to cry. Not from fear. From wonder, Daniel watched from the Wandering Star's cargo ramp as more survivors climbed out of Bunker Esperanza. Old men and women who remembered blue skies. Young adults who had grown up in artificial light. Children who had only heard stories about the surface world. 4,217 people had survived 19 years beneath the dying Earth. They had rationed food until there was barely enough to survive. They had recycled water until every drop had passed through their filters 1,000 times. They had maintained hope when every logical calculation said hope was foolish. And now they stood blinking in the dim light of their ruined world, watching an alien ship descend from the heavens. The bunker's leader was a woman named Rosa. She had gray hair and tired eyes, but her handshake was firm. We sent distress signals for years, she told Daniel. Nobody answered. We thought we were the last humans alive. You were not alone, Daniel said. There are thousands of us scattered across the galaxy. Traders, workers, colonists. We survived too. Rosa's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. And you came back for us. Of course we did. You are family. The rescue operation expanded rapidly. Crystalline 7 detected more heat signatures across the globe. Bunker Esperanza was not the only survival site. Daniel's crew began broadcasting on all frequencies, and the responses came flooding in. Bunker Nueva Lima in South America. 3,000 survivors. The Nordic Vault in what was once Scandinavia. 8,000 strong. The Pacific Haven built beneath an island chain. 2,000 souls who had lived on fish farms and desalination systems, point one by one. The hidden refuges of humanity revealed themselves. 17 bunkers in total. 80,000 survivors who had refused to die when their planet tried to kill them. The wandering star could not hold them all. Daniel sent messages to Station Horizon, describing what they had found. The response was immediate. Ships began arriving within weeks. Freighters, passenger transports, even a Dravini medical vessel sent by a council that had declared Earth dead just months before. Counselor Imrith came personally to witness the evacuation. He stood beside Daniel on a ridge overlooking Bunker Esperanza, watching the endless stream of survivors emerge into the light. I was wrong, Imrith said quietly. The data showed extinction. I did not consider that humans might simply refuse to accept it. Daniel nodded. We are stubborn that way. Stubborn. Imrith made a sound that might have been a laugh. That is not the word I would use. Your species looked at impossible odds and decided they did not apply. You dug holes in the ground and waited for 19 years because you believed someone would come. We believed in each other, Daniel corrected. Imrith watched a group of children playing near the evacuation shuttles. They were throwing rocks and laughing, their voices echoing across the scarred landscape. What will you do now, he asked. Your planet is ruined. The surface will not recover for centuries. Daniel looked out at the gray horizon. Somewhere beyond those poisoned clouds, his grandmother's garden had once bloomed. Flowers she had planted with her own hands. All gone now, buried under ash and time. We will heal it, he said. Imrith blinked all four eyes. That is impossible. The damage is too severe. Probably, Daniel agreed. But we will try anyway. That is what humans do. We try. Soren approached, his young face transformed by the weeks of rescue work. The distant observer had become an active participant, carrying supplies and helping refugees board the evacuation shuttles. The last bunker has been cleared, he reported. Everyone is accounted for. Daniel nodded. Thank you, Soren. The young Dravini hesitated. My father was wrong about your species. I want you to know that I see that now. You are not minor. You are not insignificant. He straightened. You are the most stubborn creatures in the galaxy, and I think the galaxy needs more of that. Daniel smiled. Maybe you can help us teach them. The final evacuation shuttle lifted off at sunset. Daniel stood on the ridge alone, watching it rise through the poisoned sky. Behind him, the empty bunkers waited in silence. Ahead, the ruined planet stretched to every horizon. Earth was not dead. She was wounded, dying, struggling to breathe. But she had children who refused to abandon her. Daniel placed his hand on the scarred ground. We will be back, he whispered. We will fix this. I promise. The wind carried his words across the wasteland. Somewhere in the distance, a single green shoot pushed through the ash. A weed. A survivor. Life refusing to surrender. Daniel did not see it. But it saw him, and it kept growing. 50 years later, the grand chamber of Station Horizon filled with delegates once again. But this time, the topic was not extinction. It was celebration. Earth had returned. The holographic display showed a planet transformed. Blue oceans reflecting sunlight. Green continents spreading across healing soil. White clouds carrying clean rain to forests that had not existed a generation before. Humans had done the impossible. They had healed a dead world. Daniel Reyes stood at the central platform. His hair had turned gray, and lines creased his face, but his eyes remained sharp. The maintenance worker who had raised his hand against a death verdict had become something more. Ambassador. Leader. Symbol of a species that refused to surrender. The assembly listened as he spoke. 50 years ago, this chamber declared Earth dead. The vote was unanimous. The evidence seemed clear. Daniel paused, letting the words settle. I stood in the observation gallery that day, a nobody from a dead world, and I asked a simple question. Did anyone check if we survived? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Every delegate knew the story. It had become legend across the galaxy. The human who challenged the assembly. The rescue that saved 80,000 souls. The impossible restoration that followed. You gave us permission to investigate, Daniel continued. Some of you expected us to find nothing. Others hoped we would succeed. But I do not think anyone expected what happened next. The display shifted, showing images from the restoration effort. Humans in environmental suits planting seedlings in poisoned soil. Alien engineers building atmospheric processors. Species working together across every barrier of language and biology. We did not heal Earth alone, Daniel said. Tulloch of the Moiety designed our water purification systems. Basik the freehold trader organized supply convoys for 15 years. Crystalline 7 calculated the atmospheric restoration models that guided our work. Soren of the Dravini spent 2 decades on Earth's surface, helping coordinate the planting efforts. He looked across the chamber at his old crew, now scattered among different delegations. Tulloch had become an engineering consultant. Basik ran the largest relief organization in the sector. Crystalline 7 taught mathematics at a prestigious academy. Soren sat beside his father, Counselor Imrith, now retired but still attending sessions. Earth's restoration was a galactic effort, Daniel said. Humans led the work, but we could not have succeeded without help. That is the lesson I want to leave with this assembly. No species survives alone. We need each other. The chamber fell silent. Daniel reached into his pocket and withdrew a small object. A seed. Brown and ordinary, unremarkable in every way. This is a wheat seed, he said. My grandmother grew wheat in her garden. She taught me to plant, to harvest, to make bread. When Earth died, I thought those lessons were useless, just memories of a vanished world. He held the seed up to the light. But memories are not useless. They carry the knowledge of how to rebuild. Every survivor who emerged from those bunkers carried seeds. Not just physical seeds, but seeds of culture, language, music, stories. The pieces of Earth that no disaster could destroy. Daniel placed the seed on the platform. We planted those seeds on a dead world. And they grew. A pellucid delegate chimed softly. Ambassador Reyes, the Assembly would like to formally recognize humanity's achievement. Earth is hereby reclassified from recovering biosphere to restored civilization. Furthermore, we propose that the Sol system be designated as a protected heritage zone, a symbol of what species can accomplish through determination and cooperation. The vote passed unanimously, 47 species agreeing, just as they had 50 years before. But this time, the agreement carried a different meaning. Daniel bowed his head in acknowledgement. But he was not finished. One more thing, he said. 50 years ago, a counselor asked me why I raised my hand, why I refused to accept the verdict. I gave an answer then, but I would like to give a better one now. The chamber waited. Daniel looked up at the observation gallery where he had once sat alone. A new generation of humans filled those seats now. Children and grandchildren of bunker survivors. Young people who had grown up under alien stars, but never forgot where they came from. I raised my hand because Earth taught us something, he said. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every disaster, every war, every collapse. We kept standing, not because we were stronger than other species, not because we were smarter, but because we loved each other too much to quit. His voice carried across the chamber, steady and calm. That is what survival means. Not just existing, but caring enough to fight for the people beside you. To plant seeds in dead soil because you believe in tomorrow. To raise your hand against impossible odds because surrender is not an option. Daniel smiled, the same tired, genuine smile he had worn 50 years ago. Earth is healed, but more importantly, so are we. And we are ready to help others the way others helped us. The assembly rose in applause. Species that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant now stood to honor them. The sound echoed through the grand chamber like thunder. In the archives, historians recorded the moment. They noted the date, the attendees, the formal resolutions passed. But they also recorded something simpler: that a maintenance worker from a dead world had raised his hand against a death verdict. And 50 years later, life had answered. The hand that refused to fall had lifted an entire planet back from the grave. And across the galaxy, other species began to wonder what they might accomplish if they learned to hope the way humans did.